you own or run a business, or whether you're trying to improve your business, or even your investing performance, one of the fundamental strengths you need to develop and improve is your leadership. And I'm not just talking about leading others, but also leading yourself. Gareth Lorigan is an associate at the Institute for Strategic Leadership, and he joins me from Melbourne. Thanks for joining us, Gareth.
Privilege, Peter. Nice to be here.
Okay, so do you think most of us have a leadership challenge in our lives?
Oh, to be fair to say, majority of people have a leadership challenge in their life, and if it's something that's not developed, or like a 100-metre sprinter, you're probably born to run. But if you're not coached or developed at some stage, you'll never be a world leader or at gold medal status.
I once heard John Maxwell, who I emceed around the country, talking about natural born leaders. He said all leaders are naturally born because they have to be born, but he believes you can actually teach leadership. I guess you'd agree with him.
Oh, I tend to agree, most definitely. Like I said, people, if you look back over history, are born with natural leadership traits. Some of them did it naturally very well, and others didn't do it so well. At the Institute, we're very much around developing people that are probably very good naturally and very good skill sets, but taking them to the next level of strategic level is something that definitely needs to be developed.
Tell me how the Institute works. Do people roll up for a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year course? They go in as a follower and come out as a leader?
So just to give you a little bit of history on the Institute, it was kicked off by someone who was our founder, who was the CEO of a couple of organisations, both locally and overseas, and he also took up teaching at MBA for 2 major universities in New Zealand. The one thing he found was there's a lot of people out there that can get high grades, a lot of high distinctions, and very capable people, both locally and from overseas. But the number one thing that was concerning was that they all failed on emotional intelligence, and second of all, he found that 50% of all strategies failed on implementation, 75% of the time due to interpersonal dysfunction or having no EIs. So especially around change, people were going undeveloped and not managing it well, and they'd be more like a sword rather than a wand inside these organisations. So we've developed 1-week residential programs. It's experiential programs. You go away from your family and from your workplace into remote places like Queenstown in New Zealand, or Q Station out of Sydney. They're over at Manly, and you have a week away with world-class coaches, and we take you through a whole process of getting you to take the step up to strategic leadership.
Can you give us an example of where you think having emotional intelligence really makes a difference in your leadership style?
Yeah, for sure. If I could give my own experience, I mean, I came up through the telecommunications industry and manufacturing, and I had very good skill sets. Lots of leaders that we come through are very, very good subject matter experts. They can come in, and the things that got them to where they are now in their career, it may be senior leadership positions, all happens based on a particular strategy. Once they get to that particular position in the organisation, if they continue on with that same type of strategy, it's generally the things that will undo them moving forward. So the things that get you to where you are today are definitely not the things that will take you forward. It's a change of focus.
I guess one of the big challenges for some leaders who have pretty successful private companies is that they're often family businesses, and the family knows the father or the mother both from a family situation, but also have to deal with them in a business situation. And it means that there's really cross wires there in many ways. Is this something that you've had to deal with specifically for family businesses and leadership?
Oh, look, our clients and our alumni, there's 2,500 of them. They come from a wide range of sectors, and family businesses are definitely one of them. The Institute's a family business, and we've had to manage that quite closely. There's a particular way that the organisation has grown and started from a small seedling to a big organisation, and it's about recognising the journey that you've come along, but also empowering people inside those organisations, whether it be a family or even a multinational organisation, on taking what's been done well so far and then changing the strategy in order to take it forward and meet expectations of all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think some people may well think that there's just one 100% successful strategy to becoming a leader, but surely that's not the case. Well, I've known different CEOs. There are so many different approaches, aren't there, to successful leadership?
Yeah, for sure, and it depends on where the organisation's at and what stage it's at. If it's a turnaround, that you bring in a role in a different type of CEO or a different type of strategy than what you would if the business has experienced year-on-year gains and profiting quite well. So it just depends on where the organisation's at and you know, what they've got ahead of them, I suppose.
Do you find a lot of business owners who are building successful companies haven't really thought about their leadership? They just basically do it, and as a consequence they may well be missing out on some really important innovations that could really bolster both their leadership and the results of their company?
The interesting thing is we've been working in this space over the last 15 years, both in Australia and New Zealand. We've had people come from overseas. The interesting thing lately is that for some reason CEOs and senior leaders in New Zealand have been quite conscious of senior development, spending money on their leadership development, not only on themselves but trickling that down inside their organisations. We're noticing a little bit of a slow in that in Australia for some reason at the moment. We're not sure what that's created or caused by, but definitely there's a number of options out there for CEOs and senior people in organisations. The Institute of Strategic Leadership's one. Deakin have got an amazing leadership program. It just depends on the purpose and where you're at in your career and where these senior leaders are in their career. There's also Mount Eliza through Melbourne Business School. They're all good. We're especially good at the CEO, Senior Strategic Leadership space. We hold week-long residentials where we really take people out of their comfort zone and have quite a winning formula.
Okay, tell us about what you think is the fundamental weakness that shows up in a lot of the people that end up, you know, working with you guys, and how do you address that weakness?
That's a good question. I mean, of the 2,500 alumni we've had, I could honestly say we've had 2,500 different outcomes from each of our programs. Everybody comes along. Like I said, there's no, it's not a chalk and talk. It's definitely an experience for participants, and they come along after participating in a whole lot of feedback, a whole lot of personality and psychometric type testing, and we show them not only their gifts and blind spots, but we also talk to them about their blind spots and some weaknesses that they need to consider and develop on. They go through a series of feedback during that week to hear what they're good at and things that they need to develop on, and we help them with those coaches that are with them for the whole week to develop a strategy moving forward to take on the world. Okay,
Gareth, just before we finish up, if people want to contact you, what's the website?
Is www.leadership-au.com.
Good stuff, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
That's Gareth Lorigan from the Institute for Strategic Leadership. Okay, coming up after the break, we've had a problem with Marcel in Brisbane. I don't know what's going on, but fortunately we have a pretty good replacement in Rudy Philippek Van Dyke. He joins me for a few market tips before we wind up the show.